What's up? I'm your host, Blake Champion, here with Stephen Mahoney, back for round 4 of the OCM Team Trios.
Yeah, Team Trios featuring Modern. Yeah, so this match, sort of similar to the last one, we had Chris. So actually, Chris, who was on Domain Zoo, is returning in this match. And then we have, the competitor is Chris on
Team Rhinos. So it's a repeat of the last match.
Yeah, in fact, a repeat name, too. It's Chris versus Chris.
Weird.
Yeah. We're going to see a lot of the same counterplay, and those were tight games. Right?
I'm actually interested to see how this goes, right?
Yeah.
So we got a pretty good example of this matchup the first time around. Now we get to see what happens this time.
There was no dominant player either. It was very back.
It was very back and forth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Zoo was sort of squeaking it out there at the end, right? With being able to just get in that last couple points of damage. Well,
he had the counter spell, and then he had the tribal flames.
Correct. Yeah. So he had the ability to just kind of go over the top after the Rhinos player sort of had a kill in hand that
he did. He was able to maneuver in a position where he had lethal, but Domain Zoo had the answer.
Yeah, that's sort of like the game plan for Zoo, is to be able to have these contextual answers. Let's see here.
Play a very fair game of Magic, right?
Yeah. Is that out of focus? So, we do have a Gigantha there.
Yeah,
represented.
He has Gigantha Companion. He had it last.
I was trying to see what that was. It's the new printing, right? That's the
one with the correct text.
The correct text on it from the
yep, and he had that companion the first go around.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I literally just never saw it. Like, it just never became in any way relevant.
Yep, he had it there.
And what I think is interesting is that sort of represents counterplay to Blood Moon.
It does, effectively, yes. I never considered that before.
Because you can cast it with red, and then it taps for Wooburg.
Yep.
To basically cast anything in your deck.
I had not considered that before. Although it will not add to your domain,
no.
It will allow you to cast your spells.
But it can effectively cast a Leyline Binding for you.
Sure.
Yeah. And it represents sort of an out. Like, a lot of times if the Domain Zoo is just looking for an out or looking for a way to spend mana because their opponent has gone 1-for-1. And a lot of the times, you just want a companion.
Yeah.
Right? The companions are just going to give you additional value, additional options.
If you can, there's no reason not to.
Right. And then Rhinos, that is to say Crashing Footfalls as a deck, has such a restricted level of cards that it can include.
Yes.
That's hard to see. So while we may see some variation from pre to post board in Domain Zoo, Rhinos just has sort of a more restricted game plan. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to see sort of the same game plan on this game where Rhinos sort of looks to bring in Blood Moon after game 1.
Yep. Very, very few options what you can put in your Temur Rhino sideboard.
Yeah, and it tries to go faster. Mm-hmm. Right? It's going to try to muscle in this damage before Domain Zoo can establish a board, establish control.
Well, it will try to tempo them out, is what
Absolutely.
It will try to do.
Yeah.
It will use specific cards to do specific things, and then get in a position where it has enough power on board and it can maneuver into a place where it can win the game and then do so.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's there on the Rhinos deck is on the play.
Yes.
So Domain Zoo just getting a Triome and passing, sort of the de facto plan here.
Yep, looks like a Zagoth Triome. So
yeah.
Will we see a Sacred Foundry to complete the quintet?
Yeah, that the original fetch is always sort of contextual based on what they have in hand, and oftentimes it just is the other portion to.
Yep.
And yeah, we're getting a fetch land. Definitely getting that
Sacred Foundry.
Probably going to come in untapped and play
all
Kabu.
5 colors.
Probably going to see a Kabu here.
I want to see a Wild Nikado.
We haven't seen one yet.
We have not seen a Wild Nikado.
And it's the Kabu.
Yep.
Yeah, Nikado or Ragavan, are sort of the 1 mana.
We've been doing this for 4 rounds. We have also not seen a turn 1 Ragavan yet.
Yeah, we saw a Dash Ragavan.
We did see a Dash Ragavan.
But no turn 1. We've seen card's very good, but I think Domain would prefer to utilize their first turn in getting that.
Oh, so are we just not playing Wild Nacatl anymore?
I don't know.
a petty theft from a Brazen Bar. We're going to put the Territorial Kavu back into Chris's hand, and
I like that.
The follow-up play is land, Shardless Agent, 2 Rhinos coming. So 10 power on the board.
What a turn.
We will pass back to Chris, who misses his 3rd land drop.
Oh no.
And
still got the 5/5.
Recast the Kavu.
Yeah, this is sort of the nightmare scenario for Chris not having, or for the Domain Zoo, for Chris. They're both Chris. For the Domain Zoo. Oh, and we got another Brazen Borrower.
Oh,
and we're getting it for 10. Oh my goodness.
Yep, not looking good. See, this is a situation where the Rhinos deck can really just kind of tempo you out.
Are we gonna see another?
You're stuck. You're stuck on lands. Well, he did drop.
He got
third
another
land.
one. Yeah.
Stuck on lands for a couple of turns. Bounce you, tap
no.
you, and I will present lethal. So a Leyline Binding here, I guess, would save him.
He's icing that.
He is icing that, but if we can fetch up a basic Plains and cast a Leyline Binding to take out one of these threats here, we will live to fight another day.
Would we? It's still 6 power. He's at 6 now.
Oh, I was sorry. I was thinking that was 9.
He'd actually go to 5 fetching.
So a Leyline Binding will not save him. In fact.
Oh yeah, that was so fast.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a rapid fire game 1.
I want to reference back in round 2, we had the Affinity deck.
Yes.
And we got to see it hit on full power.
Yes.
This felt like the full power Temur.
It did.
It had everything.
Here's my Rhinos. Here's my answer. Here's my answer.
Yeah.
Good game.
Yeah, just tempo, and present lethal threats.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fast. And,
back to the sideboards we go. So, remind me again, what does Domain Zoo have to bring in against this?
Domain has a lot of options.
Yes.
Hidetsugu consumes all.
Yes.
We saw that card.
We did see that
Wow.
card. Yeah.
3 mana, basically a board wipe. It destroys each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less.
So it just destroys all the Rhinos.
Destroys all the Rhinos, destroys any 1-drops.
And then it goes up to Chapter 2, which exiles all graveyards.
Yep.
So Domain Zoo doesn't really care about its graveyard. Doesn't matter if it gets exiled. What is the last chapter of Hidetsugu Consumes All?
On the last chapter, it exiles and flips over. It becomes a enchantment creature ogre shaman. It's a 3/3 with trample, and whenever it's called Vessel of the All-Consuming. Whenever it deals damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's a 3/3 with trample. And whenever it deals damage to a player, if it has dealt 10 or more damage to that player this turn, they lose the game.
Okay. Mostly we're just interested in killing Rhinos.
Yes.
Awesome.
It does represent a threat. So Flusterstorm is the other big one.
We did see a Flusterstorm there. That was the counterspell that won Domain Zoo that last game.
It's so good.
In round 3.
It's so good. It was. What's funny is that it only exists in Modern today because it was a buy a box promo for the original Modern Horizons set. They brought it. They basically were like, "Oh, here's a buy a box promo. We'll just enter this into Modern." And nobody really was excited for it when it first appeared, but against these Cascade decks, it does so much.
I think Flusterstorm is just very good in general.
Yeah.
The Domain Zoo is the deck where you want to stick the threat, protect the threat, right? Play the threat, protect the threat. So 1 mana counterspells, very, very valuable.
Agreed. And then the last card that they're definitely going to bring in is Teferi Time Rattler.
Teferi Time Rattler just shuts off the ability to cascade, period.
Shuts it off. It can bounce a threat, but oftentimes what I think it's going to do is come down. Domain is going to create basically a wall to defend it, and it's just going to start ticking up.
Yep.
It's going to basically be impossible to get rid of, and they're not going to be able to do anything at instant speed.
And the Rhinos deck does not function very well at sorcery speed.
No, in fact, I don't think it functions at a good portion of the deck doesn't function at all. Yeah, like you can't even suspend fairly the Rhinos and then cast it eventually. It just doesn't work.
Doesn't work. So what are we bringing in from the Rhinos side?
Again, more limited on what we can do in the Rhinos deck because of the mana values.
Yep.
I don't know. So, depending upon what we think is going to happen, Blood Moon is obvious. Like, that feels like the easy include.
Blood Moon is an easy include.
There's 2 or 3 of them in every sideboard from this deck just because it does so much against so many decks.
Yep.
Because Modern is such a diverse format, you kind of have to make sure that everything does something.
Mm-hmm.
And then potentially Mystical Dispute, if you feel like you're going to play against the counter magic that your opponent does. Specifically, it's very good against Teferi.
Yes.
So if you're playing with the understanding that Teferi is going to come down and turn your game off, and you want to counterplay to that, the Mystical Dispute is for you. Because I don't know that we see anything else. Are we on the play or on the draw for Domain Zoo? Or not for Crashing Footballs. It's on the play, right?
It's on the draw.
It's on the draw. We might see Gemstone Caverns come in. An additional copy of Gemstone Caverns.
Sure.
I don't know that we bring an Endurance or Force of Vigor because there's not a lot of graveyard value here. There's not a lot of artifacts.
Nothing really that Force of Vigor can touch.
So Blood Moon, Mystical Dispute, potentially, and possibly an additional copy of Gemstone Cavern, just to get in front of being on the draw.
Yep, and that seems fine. I don't know that Temur Rhinos is one of those decks where it can kind of just play a game of Magic, and the cards do a variety of different things. So not really terrible matchups. No, I'm sure there are good matchups and bad matchups, but nothing is arbitrarily bad or extremely good. It's just kind of your 50% deck, right?
Yeah, it feels like the reason a lot of people play this deck isn't necessarily because it's the most powerful, but just because it always feels like there's a game. There's always a game to play.
Yep.
And it does cool, powerful things. It does. I enjoy a deck that has a deck building restriction in it. You know this. I love those.
Yes.
I love a possibility storm deck. But this deck is much more powerful than that, and because of the rulings on split cards and because of cost reduction effects like Mystical Dispute, we sort of get to see the full power of a lot of these cards on display.
Sure.
Sort of resolving some mulligans here. Domain Zoo still showing Gigantha. Didn't do anything. Just sort of a late game option.
Yep.
Especially against a control deck. Because while Domain Zoo has control elements against a harder control deck,
it is most certainly not a control or even a mid-range deck.
No.
The plan is to defend the threats and to stop your opponent from being able to deal with your things, right?
Yeah, we're tempo heavy.
We're just trying to protect the queen.
Yeah, and the queens being incredibly powerful, low-cost threats.
Yes.
Like the Territorial copy we see here, like Wild Nicodle, if it is in the deck, or Scion of Draco.
Scion of Draco, Territorial Kavu, Nishoba Brawler.
Wait, I love that card.
Nishoba Brawler.
The fact that it has Draco.
What about Tarmogoyf? Where's Tarmogoyf at in all of this?
Tarmogoyf is waiting for itself to be reprinted into a standard deck so that it can be played in Pioneer.
I don't want Pioneer to just become old Modern.
I don't think it's going to be. That's the thing. You could reprint every...
No, I don't think so.
I think you could reprint
if you reprint all of those old Modern cards, Pioneer's just going to be what Modern used to be.
I don't think they're good enough even for Pioneer. I think that there's so much counterplay. I think they'd come in, people would be excited, they'd play with them, because even Liliana of the Veil in Pioneer is just okay.
I think Rhinos is going to start with a Gemstone Caverns in play.
Your boy called it.
He has the ability to take the play back from Domain Zoo. This is going to be huge if he plans on playing an early Blood Moon or an early Cascade spell.
I really like this. Oh, and we got the turn one Ragavan. Okay.
Finally, Monkey making a turn one appearance.
The amount of check marks we're making on our box right now.
Right. If we were playing bingo.
Yeah, this is our bingo box. We've talked about this all day about Ragavan being sort of a the
He's
hallmark.
a format staple, right?
We got Dead Gone coming down.
Dead Gone are going to take care of Ragavan here.
So reasonable, right? It's sort of the only one of the few 1-mana threats that just every deck that can play it will play it, right?
Yes, if you were playing Mountains, you should have Ragavan.
With the exception of Temur Rhinos.
Right, you cannot.
That's the only one deck that just cannot. And I wonder if the Temur Rhinos deck just like, we've got an
engineered explosive is going to come down
on 0. Yeah, I love that. That sort of dares Chris to do something. Dares Temur Rhinos.
Yeah, and I mean, make your Rhinos anyway, right? You got to make them blow it up, and then you just make more Rhinos later. It's fine.
Yeah, it has 8 cascade spells. It has 8 ways to hit those Rhinos.
Yes.
So like, it's totally reasonable for them to make them spend a card to get rid of tokens.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just do it again. We've seen this before where Rhinos just has the ability to rebuild after a board wipe.
Yep.
We saw the Hidetsugu Consumes all come down.
Yeah, because it's so effortless what they do to put 8 power, 10 power onto the battlefield.
And unfortunately, Domain Zoo not seeing as fast start this time as it had in the past.
Yep, I think that's by design.
Yeah.
The Zoo deck's going to slow down a little bit so that it can be a little bit more reactive.
Oh, there we go.
And at the end of Chris's third turn, a Violent Outburst is going to put 8 power
there was
into
an endurance.
We do have the Engineered Explosives here that'll be able to clean up these Rhinos. Let's see if he pulls the trigger. You mentioned you saw an endurance there.
Yep.
I think that having access to a flash threat is very, very good.
You know what's excellent about it? It lets you reset your crashing footballs.
That's what I was just going to say. If you plan on playing a very long game of Magic, which this could very easily turn into, it does allow you to reset your crashing footfalls, puts them back into the deck so that you can continue to cascade and make more Rhinos.
I just never considered that as an option.
It is a very sweet piece of tech.
Whenever I see that card, I'm always thinking, I'm going to reset their graveyard.
Yep.
It's resetting your own with a creature that is also a threat.
Yep.
And it has reaches. At 3/4, it's easy to cast.
Yep.
For 3 mana, like, green is generally the easiest. So we've got, what came down there? We got the 2 Rhino, or we have
that's just the Violent Outburst and the Crashing Footfalls.
And what happened with the... Oh, he's just making the Rhinos. Okay. So
No. He cast a Stubborn Denial.
Oh, he just Stubborn Denial.
Yep. He Stubborn Denial the Crashing Footfalls.
Even with the Engineered Explosives in play.
Yep.
Sort of not even trying it, right? Like making him spend multiple cards before he even pops this Engineered Explosives, which I guess is just like being able to manage your resources. Well,
it's the Engineered Explosives is going to continue to sit there and kind of be a pain in the neck for Chris. So, Stubborn Denial going to take care of that. And
I think Rhinos, you have to play into it. Oh, and we got another Violent Outburst. And he played into it thinking that it would take care of the Engineered Explosives, but then having the counter spell for it really is basically making him have it twice before he gets any amount of power on board.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also going to make Rhino's endurances much more powerful if he has them. Because I don't know what amount of card draw does this deck have, or is it just like looking for
what?
Like the Rhinos, what kind of
the Rhino
ice, right?
Yeah, the Rhinos deck does not have card advantage.
Yeah.
It just has a bunch of cards that create card advantage or replace themselves.
So there's no way for it to find the endurance. It's just hoping to have it contextually when it needs it.
Right.
I think it's totally reasonable. In my mind, I'm thinking this deck obviously does very powerful things in it has consistency in the cascade spells that it's utilizing, and basically those cascade spells double as it come for free with a Crashing Footfalls.
Yep.
And this is so what is this card that just got played? This is
he hard cast a Fury.
He hard cast a Fury.
Yes.
That doesn't do anything.
It did not do anything. It is simply a 3-power double striker.
That is totally fine. that basically presents lethal there, right? Like double lethal.
Yes.
Yeah,
it would require that Chris have now an answer in addition to the engineered explosives. And if he has a fire in his hand, that will be able to finish him off. So we'll take 6 here from the double striking fury, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
Perhaps he uses it. Yeah,
fire.
He's going to present a fire here.
There is the handshake.
And that is the end.
We got to see full power there.
Temur Rhinos takes it down into...
he popped it down to the last 0.
Yeah, that was incredible stuff.
The difference in how the game's played out there, with Temur Rhinos being effectively on the play twice.
Right.
Because they were on the play first game.
Gemstone Caverns gives you that, yep.
And I wonder if he brought in the extra copy
yep.
in game 2 just to have that acceleration.
Yep.
And we didn't even need the Blood Moon, right?
No.
He was just able to tempo, board
yep.
control, and he was putting pressure
yep.
on the domain deck.
All right, I am going to step out of the booth real quick, see if we can get another feature match in here. We will be right back.
Bye-bye.
This.